Welcome to the NCDWI Guide podcast, where defenders of the Constitution assemble to prepare for courtroom battle and firm owners gather to develop marketing strategies that will revolutionize the practice of criminal defense. Here's your host, the NCDWI guy, Jake Minnick.
Hello, fellow freedom fighters, and welcome to episode 143 of the NCDWI Guy podcast. On today's episode, we have got the man, Chaz Post, on as a special guest. I am a huge fan of Chaz, everything that he's done. He was a close friend in law school. Just an incredible attorney, somebody that I really admire in terms of how Chaz has built his practice, the way that he advocates for clients in the courtroom, the way that he elevates the bar through education. Just an incredible lawyer, an incredible human being. Chaz was our first attorney guest on the podcast back on episode 6. This is back in the the height of the COVID pandemic. Chaz was one of the first buyers into the podcast, and definitely the first attorney on the podcast as a guest. So if you haven't listened to that episode, go back and listen to it, because Chaz communicates how he got into practicing law, kind of his mindset for trying cases, and then just a great conversation about some amazing practice tips, consultation tips that Chaz had on that episode. So if you've not listened to episode 6, go back and listen to that before you dive into today's episode. But so excited to have Chaz back on the podcast. Chaz is just, again, an incredible lawyer. He's a board certified specialist in criminal law in North Carolina. He has been the chair and a speaker at numerous CLE opportunities, has chaired a number of the DWI specific CLEs offered through the NCAJ, is committed to educating other lawyers about DWI issues, about DWI cases, how to try cases, how to represent clients, and just an incredible lawyer in the courtroom. I can't tell you how many different attorneys that I have talked to, both on the defense end and on the prosecution end, that have just given Chaz high praise for the way that he communicates and advocates for his client in the courtroom, the way that he talks to a jury. Chaz was always just such a good speaker in law school, where I had kind of the front and center seat to seeing the future that would be Chaz Post. But Chaz is just such a incredible communicator, and the way that he speaks to everybody, but I would say maybe particularly to a jury, it's just where Chaz was meant to be. It's where he comes alive. So if you ever have the opportunity to go watch Chaz try a case, please take advantage of that. You will not be disappointed. Chaz is also, we are excited to announce Chaz as the first announced speaker of the Freedom Fighter Summit in October 19th and 20th in Asheville. This is going to be the inaugural Freedom Fighter Summit, a branding and marketing conference for North Carolina defense lawyers. If you want to learn more about the summit, go to minnicklaw.com/summit, minnicklaw.com/summit to learn more about the summit. You'll find links there so that you can register through Eventbrite for the summit. Super excited to have Chaz be one of the speakers at the summit. He's going to be talking about how to brand yourself during the initial consultation with your client. And so just very excited to have Chaz be a part of that. It is going to be an incredible learning opportunity for growing your business, improving your client experience, growing your team, creating a better culture at your law office, being a better leader in the criminal defense community that you are a part of. So really excited to have this on the radar. And now that it is 2023, go and check that out. So very much excited to have Chaz on the podcast today, and look forward to having him be a part of our summit later this year. Chaz, I'm pumped, man. I'm pumped to have the conversation with you again. You're the first repeat attorney on the podcast, man. I love the energy, love the conversation that we have prepared for today. So we are talking today about 10 ways that you can level up your lawyering in 2023, kickstarting the new year with some suggestions for improving the practice. So we've each got a list of 5 to share, and I'm going to let you kick things off, man. Excited to have the conversation with you.
Yes, sir. And thank you for having me again. I'm honored. I enjoy all these podcasts that you do. I watch the majority of them, and you do a very good job. So I appreciate it. So I guess the topic is, how to level up and be a better lawyer, a better business person, just an overall better you in 2023. And I think my first, point that I'd like to make is that you need to be yourself. You got to be you. You can't try to be someone else. You can't pretend to be this type of lawyer if you're really this type of lawyer. If you're the diplomat that can go in there and schmooze the DA and get something dismissed, be the diplomat, go in there, schmooze, and get something dismissed. If you're the tenacious bulldog that's not going to accept anything but a not guilty, go in there and tee it up. You always have to think about what's in the best interest of your client, but you got to be yourself, and your client hires you for a reason. They hire you for you. Yes. And your style and who you are as an attorney. And I think it's very important not to try to be someone that you're not. What made me think of this, and this is kind of a sad point, is one of the greatest trial lawyers I've ever met and talked to and dealt with over the years was Bill Deal from Charlotte. When I was in law school, I actually had Mr. Deal come and speak to one of my law school classes during some sort of, I guess it was a conference or something. I'm not sure what it was, but I had him come, and he came and he spoke, and it was awesome. And he told some really cool stories, some of which I'm not going to repeat because they were abrasive. But, I read the article in the Charlotte Observer when he passed away, and one of his partners said that, Bill Deal was Bill Deal, and nobody else could be him. And he said that when new lawyers would come into the to the firm, he would say, don't try to be like Bill Deal, because you ain't Bill Deal. And that resonated.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And that's kind of what the reason I picked that as number one is, you have to be yourself. Now, some people are chameleons. They can go be, the diplomat on Monday, and then on Tuesday they can go in there and be the tenacious bulldog. And if that's you, that's what you should do too. But that's my first suggestion for improvement to level up in 2023.
Yeah, I love that. For me, like, Lance, my partner in Gastonia, and I couldn't be further apart in terms of our courtroom styles. He is very much aggressive. He's going to go after people, and I'm kind of like, take this more laid back, approach, polite approach. And, both of those things can work, but you can't, you can't fake it, and I think that's one reason why for younger lawyers, it's really helpful to sit in the courtroom and observe different attorneys try cases, because you'll get to see styles that kind of resonate more with who you are. Yeah. Bill Deal was such a big personality, like just a big personality. And you kind of have almost like if you've ever, watched him give an interview or talked, you have like a persona kind of attached with Bill. And so I think that, there's finding that kind of persona is really important, because it is your
trademark
identity, Yeah, exactly. Yeah, your trademark. Yeah, that's such a good way of thinking about it. So I love that. And yeah, don't feel like that was a place that I think we as a firm for a while kind of took a wrong approach in terms of like training associates in some part, was trying to kind of teach personality a little too much as opposed to just kind of teaching the law. So, lesson learned, don't, everybody's got their own style, and it's, really important to kind of stay true to that style. I love that first point.
So everybody be yourselves.
I love it. Sweet. Well, my first one is read, and maybe I'll change this to read or reread, but read one case a week related to DWI. There's so many lessons to be learned from knowing the case law, and so many benefits, right? You become kind of the courtroom expert. You can really change a judge's mind when you have a case that is directly on point. It's like, this is pretty black and white. Rereading. The reason I say rereading is our chief judge, Judge Hill, in Buncombe County. I once had a probable cause hearing in front of him and was going through the factual argument, and then I referenced a couple of cases and said, Judge, I know that I have copies of those cases, but I know that you're very familiar with this. And Judge Hill said, I hear 100 cases, a month. I don't remember any of this. You bring your cases up, So, I thought that was such a humble thing to say. And, it's something that we forget about our bench, that, that just because they're in the courtroom every day, the nuances of our arguments sometimes, are easily forgotten. The particular facts about a specific case and how it is, analogous to our case is very, very difficult to kind of retain as a judge that's hearing all of these different types of cases and motions and just constantly trying to make these rulings kind of spur of the moment. So, if a judge is feeling that way about the case law, there's definitely reason that we should even be taking it to a much further level, because we are, we have the time. We're niching down into the criminal defense realm on these specific issues. So, reading the cases, but then also especially like landmark decisions on the North Carolina DWI side of things, rereading those regularly to kind of say, oh yeah, I forgot that particular fact was present in that case, and being ready then in the future to kind of bring a case in. I think it's so powerful to have that at your fingertips.
I could not agree more. Being up to date on your case law, whether it be old case law, then you have to refresh your recollection, or it be the new case law. There's no substitute for it. I mean, it kind of falls into one of my other suggestions for improvement that I'm gonna hold off on saying. But you referenced kind of the judge mentioning the case, and you mentioning the case of the judge and him or her not really remembering it. I mean, a lot of our job, and this is not a bad thing, is teaching the judges, or in some cases reminding them of what the law is. And I think that's something that is an art, because you have to be humble when you do it. You don't want to be in there like, hey, I got this. You have to be humble when you do it, and you have to be able to, articulate what the facts of the case are, what the law of the case is, and how your case that you're arguing is applicable to the case that you're trying to show the similarities with, and why the judge should rule in your favor. So there's no substitute in knowing the case law. So I agree, reading the case law at least once a week is absolutely something that every lawyer, criminal defense or otherwise, should do weekly. So I agree with you 100% on that.
Sweet. What do you got next for us, Chaz?
Okay, so since we just talked about that, my other one, or my next suggestion for improvement would be to get organized and stay prepared. There is no substitute for organization and being prepared. In my opinion, the lawyer in the courtroom that is the most prepared is the lawyer in the courtroom that is going to prevail. Obviously, there's exceptions to the general rule, but most of the time, if you're organized and you can find your case law, you can find your exhibits, you have them in a trial notebook, or sometimes manila envelopes and files, however you do it with your style. If you have that, and then you're more prepared than the assistant district attorney. The assistant district attorney is going to be like, well, I haven't read that case, Your Honor. Can I have 10 minutes to read the case? And they're sitting there in the courtroom while the judge is twiddling his or her thumbs, and you're over there like, I've already read this case, and they're over there trying to speed read it in 5 minutes, and they miss the big picture. And a lot of times, because of that, you end up being the prevailing party in the dispute. So, organized and staying prepared and being the most prepared is a high priority for all lawyers, especially criminal defense lawyers in North Carolina.
Yeah, and I think it's actually one of the few competitive advantages that we have in the private criminal defense bar. So I won't speak for the public defenders that are just, sometimes have a almost unmanageable caseload and are kind of in the same spot as DAs in terms of trying to, kind of really just read up on a case moments before it heads to trial, or speak with the officer for the first time, as they're sitting on the stand. I mean, there are a lot of time pressures on court-appointed lawyers, but for the private defense bar, this is one of our few competitive advantages. The law may be against us, the facts may be against us, but generally we're going to have a better chance of preparing to defend our client than the state is going to have to prosecute, and more investment in doing that. So, it is really one of the places where most of the scales seem to be tipped in the state's favor. This is one that we can flip to our advantage. So I totally agree with that preparation. We have the ability as criminal defense lawyers to make that our advantage.
And kind of going off what you just said, someone once told me, and I do this regularly, if the facts are in your favor, you argue the facts. The law's in your favor, you argue the law. If neither the law or the facts are in your favor, you just argue loud.
I've heard argue like hell.
Argue like hell, argue loud.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. But I think if you have that preparation, down, you really can find, I think that sometimes the lack of a defense observed is just because of a lack of preparation. Sure. I think, the more that you kind of get into the nitty gritty of your case, the more you kind of say, hey, here's something that I could bring up. Here's a point that I could argue. Here's a case that, is kind of on board with mine. So I love that. That's definitely preparation is key to success. And again, we got the advantage on that. All right, sweet. Well, my next one is kind of working on your business instead of in it. So dedicating at least 3 hours a week to working on your business. And if you are not a kind of owner of a law firm, if you're a court-appointed lawyer, if you're an associate at a firm, spending 3 hours a week thinking about your client's experience, right? So even if you're not kind of, thinking about, well, how do I increase revenues? How do I, kind of get on the same page with my paralegal? How do I, deal with the marketing, whatever it might be, even if it really is like I'm almost 100% dedicated to being in the courtroom, you can figure out ways to make your client experience better. So I think it's a real challenge for us as lawyers to do this. Criminal defense lawyers, if you're one of the road warriors operating in 3 or 4 counties a day, you're just flying by the seat of your pants, holding on for dear life, trying to kind of meet all of the time requirements. This is a massive ask, but I think you will see massive dividends from it if you can devote that 3 hours a week to improving your business or improving the client experience, or combination of both. It's just a huge lift that you can give to the way that your client perceives the service that is offered, and how you are marketing yourself or branding yourself different than everybody else around you.
Yeah, and I agree with you. We all got into this job for a reason, because at least I know I did, because I wanted to help people.
Yes.
And I like to get in the courtroom and be myself, which is fun for me. But we're also business people. I mean, this is how we feed our families. And if you want to be successful financially, you've got to take some time away from the legal aspect of your business and concentrate on what makes the business run smoothly and how am I going to get the most bang for my buck, because you're a business person. You have to take that into account, especially those of us that own our own businesses. I mean, you've got to take some time out to figure out, who am I? What do I want my law office to be? How am I going to market myself and my firm? And what's the best ways economically for me to make sure that I'm successful financially? I think that being a successful attorney is twofold. You want to be successful by making sure that your clients are taken care of, because that's the number one priority all the time, because that's the oath that you swore, and that's why we do what we do. But I think that creates success financially.
Yes.
I don't know any good broke lawyers.
No, I agree. I totally agree. Yeah,
that's not, and then there are some folks that choose to sacrifice their entire life to indigent defense, and there is something awesome to be said for that. And then there's those of us that are in private practice, and those that do indigent defense don't necessarily have to worry about the things that we're talking about right now regarding running a law office. They have the luxury of giving their all, their heart and their soul in every minute of every day to their clients' causes and their clients' cases. And I love that, and I respect the heck out of that. And then you got private attorneys, and we got to worry about the business aspect of it. And quite frankly, most lawyers I know aren't great business people.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely true. And I think that's one reason why, even if you are in indigent work or you're not the owner of the business, still stepping outside and spending that time on the client experience. Because I do think when you put the client first, the business succeeds. Like that ultimately, those kind of two drivers are very much they're not mutually exclusive. They support each other. And if you it's one thing to be a great trial lawyer and have mastery of case law and mastery of preparation and be able to pull things out from memory just at a whim. That mastery of the law is so important. But you can have somebody that tries the case and preparation wise is elite, but doesn't connect with the client, and then somebody that tries it elite, an elite way, but then also connects with the client. And I know from personal experience of knowing you, Chaz, from conversations that I've had with DAs, from cases that we have co-counseled on or that other attorneys from the office have co-counseled on. When you go to bat for a client, not only are you killing it in the courtroom, but after the case is over, your client's just, dude, my lawyer went to war for me, and feeling that, kind of attachment and, respect and appreciation for what happened in the courtroom. And it doesn't matter if you're in the private bar or if you're, an indigent defense attorney, the outcome in the courtroom is part of the job. But making sure that the client is also, feeling that, kind of knowing how much that you're going to bat for them is an actual kind of like almost separate part of the work, and something that I think all of us can work on. So I love it. I love putting that model in the client first mindset.
Absolutely. And, we're in the client satisfaction business.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
At the end of the day, if the client is satisfied, then you've done your job, regardless of the outcome. I mean,
right. You're not in control of that.
I've had clients where I tried the hell out of their case for 2-3 hours on a Friday afternoon in DWI court in Lee County, North Carolina. And we lost. And they came outside and gave me the biggest hug in the history of the
yeah, for sure.
They were just wanted somebody to fight for them.
Yeah, for sure.
Some people just want to be heard.
Yeah. 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 No, I totally agree. You're not in control of that outcome, but you are in control of the way that that's perceived. So yeah, totally agree with that mindset. Yeah, sweet. What's next on your list?
Okay, number 3, and this is going to kind of go off the business aspect of what we were just referring to. I think that in 2023, you all need to charge what you are worth.
Listen up.
Charge what you're worth. Stop doing things for pennies on the dollar. You all are outstanding attorneys, or you wouldn't be listening to Jake's podcast. And you need to get compensated for your work. We all work too hard, sacrifice too much time, away from our families, laying in bed at night, thinking about people's cases and how you're going to, we got people's lives in our hands every single day. And you need to charge what you're worth. I hear too many folks charging, not enough. I've had clients hire me because I charged more than the other guy. And they were like, we're not going to hire that guy or that girl for that low price, because we know you get what you pay for and you pay for what you get. So there's not much more to say on my end other than charge what you're worth and be content with it.
Yeah, I think this is something, I've tried on the podcast in several episodes to kind of have more open conversations about fees. I think it's something that a lot of us wear pretty close to the vest. And I would just encourage more conversation in your local bars, about fees, about what to be charging for certain types of cases. There are attorneys that I know that have been practicing, for 20 plus years and haven't raised their fees in a 10-year period of time. And if you look at inflation over the past 12 months, that absolutely is not going to be a model that works out. So, I think it is a really important thing for us to have open and candid conversations about, instead of just kind of like being ashamed of that or having a concern about that. There's obviously the ethics rules that govern charging a reasonable fee. But that doesn't mean you have to charge a dirt cheap fee. That's a different conversation. So I 100% agree with that, and I think that the way to a breakthrough on that front is just with a more open conversation about fees.
Yeah, and then that's my least favorite thing to talk about when someone comes in my office and I spend 30 minutes to an hour in a consult. It is the last thing we talk about,
right? For sure. Same here.
Find out who they are. They find out who I am. I get the facts of the case. I kind of give them a rundown of what I think, simply based on what they've told me up to now, and that's it. And then I say, do you have any questions? And then they usually ask me,
yes,
what's your fee?
That's the same way that we do it. And I think we talked about this during our last podcast together, Chaz. I think one of the reasons that both of us do that is because you can't justify your fee without that conversation already having gone into it. Yeah. I mean, if you haven't asked all of the appropriate questions about the client's case, got to know them, understood the facts, you haven't showed, I'm going to be an attorney that looks, under every rock. I'm going to go to war for you in the courtroom. We're going to do everything possible to get the best possible outcome. You don't do that by saying those things. You do that by asking the right questions and understanding where the client is coming from. So, we both do that in a very similar vein in terms of the consultation style.
And it's one last thing on this, and you have to know what you're dealing with, because someone with no priors, no kids in the car, no serious injury, and a valid driver's license is probably going to be a level 5 if they get convicted. Is probably going to get charged a little less than the guy that has 3 DWIs on his record in the last 7 years, because he's got a whole lot more to lose. I mean, he's going to prison.
Right. Exactly.
So you have to know what you're dealing with before you can even talk about a fee.
Yeah, but totally charge what you're worth. Yeah, that is a big point. Don't miss out on that one. So I guess kind of my next point in that same vein of like having, open conversation about fees with, members in your local bar and just putting that out there a little bit more. My next one is get more involved in your local bar. I think that the stronger the local bar is, the better it's going to be for your clients. 100%. If you've got, a strong local bar that, kind of approaches cases with a similar mindset, knows the, scheduling issues that might exist in particular courtrooms, knows, when to maybe collectively put pressure on certain types of charges or offerings that are being made, is sharing information, is, willing to kind of bounce cases off of one another. The stronger that you have that local bar, that just elevates everybody's representation, and therefore we collectively do a better job of representing our clients.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. There's one jurisdiction that I'm not going to mention that I practice in that has extremely unreasonable traffic policies. And if I was a younger man, I would get together with all the lawyers in that bar and just start trying these tickets because
that's the only way to make a change,
So they're making people go do community service for speeding tickets. It's just ridiculous. But getting together with the bar, there's strength in numbers.
There is,
if
absolutely.
everyone's on the same page in your local bar about something that's, let's say the elected DA makes some policy that's just outrageous. If you go to him or her and try to complain or suggest something different, it's not as effective as if all 20 of you in your local criminal defense bar go there and speak to the DA about how ridiculous the policy is. And I don't agree with policies anyway, but nonetheless, there's strength in numbers and camaraderie and insight from other lawyers, and frankly, referrals sometimes come from your relationships with the guys and girls that are in your local bar. So I agree with you 100%. You got to have a strong local bar, and it's fun, sitting back in the attorney lounge or whatever, shooting the shit with all the folks when you're waiting on the DAs to handle the cases. So
it is. No, absolutely. I think there's just so much, even outside of those, policy changes and having that strength in numbers. I agree. I think just having a strong bar. There's just been so many times when I have been in trial, and because of the great, defense bar that we have in Buncombe County, I've had a attorney, say, hey, take a look at this, at this case, or, what do you think about this? Or you should ask this question. And it's awesome, right? It's like having a team of lawyers sometimes behind you, as opposed to trying a case solo. So, there's just so many advantages that come out of that.
Yeah, I agree.
Sweet. Well, what's next? Back to you.
All right. So there's an old phrase that my dad taught me. He said, "Time is the friend of the defendant." So I think my fourth suggestion for improvement in 2023 would be to be patient. Unless the client really needs something done immediately or in a fast manner, I think that letting some time tick down, kind of just kicking the case down the road a little bit, is nothing but beneficial to your client. Now, the whole time that the case is being continued, you need to be doing what you're supposed to be doing on your end, getting the discovery, figuring out if you need to get subpoena witnesses for yourself, or figuring out if you need to hire an expert witness, whatever the case may be. But, just letting some time pass on some of these cases that, especially in DWI cases, memories tend to fade. Witnesses tend to get lost. Law enforcement tend to transfer, get tired. What I tell my clients when they come see me, I'm like, look, I know the law, and I've realized that I have just learned the facts of your case, and I can apply the law that I know to the facts of your case. And I'll do my own independent investigation once I get the discovery from the district attorney's office, and I'll look at it and compare and contrast what you've told me with what's in this report and what's on this potential video. But I'm also not afraid to have a little luck.
Right. Yeah.
And the longer we continue this, as long as you're okay with it,
Sometimes that's the only way you win.
you pay this 30-day civ rev and you're back driving like nothing ever happened. Just be patient.
Yeah.
So the fourth thing would be just be patient and remember that the majority of the time, now there's exceptions to the general rule, but most of the time, time is the friend of the defendant.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, not only does that sometimes, benefit on the case outcome. I mean, definitely if you have a victim involved in your case in any way, time is your best friend. I mean, getting as far removed from that incident is your best friend. DWI cases, definitely, you've got multiple witnesses a lot of times in these things. Dragging it out can be helpful, but then it's also allows your client the time to prepare things on their end and get, their ducks in a row. My mantra to clients is, we're always going to be working towards best possible outcome in the courtroom for you, but you need to be preparing for worst case scenario. So particularly on a client that's got, multiple DWIs in the past is going to be a level 2 or higher, potentially looking at like a habitual charge. If it's a serious DWI, if you can get, 4 months of CAM or 6 months of CAM or complete a, intensive outpatient treatment or a long period of inpatient treatment or have, even just normal treatment going on for an extended period of time, the selling point on that in terms of sentencing is just a huge advantage to the defense. So again, it's not to just drag it on only to get the best outcome on the case, but you can then use that on your clients and to be like, hey, there's work to be done ahead of our ultimate court date that we're going to try to push out as far as possible.
I agree 100%, because that goes back to preparation. I mean, if you've analyzed the case and you know that you probably can't win it, then what do? You try to minimize the damage. So you go have your client do multitude of things to try and mitigate the sentence and do your best at arguing for the mitigation. And you need time for that. So I agree with you.
Absolutely. Well, my fourth way of leveling up in 2023 is to sit down with your local DWI master, right? So this is kind of, tap into the people that have been doing this forever. In some places there's almost, in some counties, jurisdictions, there's almost like a opportunity, whether it's in the attorney lounge to, kind of bounce cases off of, a lawyer that's been doing it forever or is regarded as like the go-to DWI guy in the local area. But take that one step further and ask that person out to lunch. Ask 2 or 3 of these attorneys out to lunch and just sit down with them and say, hey, if I wanted to be a better lawyer in the courtroom, what could I do to make that happen? What things helped you along the way? How are you communicating with clients during the consultation? What are you doing to kind of, regularly on your own and to educate yourself about DWI and the tips and tricks that you're going to hear from these guys and gals that have been doing it forever is going to be so powerful. I mean, it really is like, why reinvent the wheel when somebody has figured out how to do it?
Yeah, that's well said. I don't know that I could say anything better than that, other than this. In addition to speaking to your DWI guru in your neck of the woods, go watch them.
Yes. Oh, yeah, totally.
Action. Because that, I used to watch my old boss in action, and it taught me so much. And it's just, I think it's going and watching someone that knows what they're doing. So a master of their craft in action is you can't put a price tag on it. It's invaluable.
Yeah. The other benefit about doing that, like just seeing that in action, is you get to hear everything is in the abstract when you're reading case law, like we talked about earlier, when you're, going to a CLE that is, for statewide, criminal defense lawyers, or maybe multiple states, people are attending this particular CLE. When you go watch the master, you get to see how an argument works at the local level, which is completely different one county to the next. So seeing that side of things is huge.
And knowing your judge, I mean,
Yeah.
you're what you said. I mean, the way you argue a case, or the way your DWI master may argue the case in front of one judge may be different than if arguing in front of another judge. I mean, some judges just don't want to hear it, and you just need to be quiet, because sometimes brevity is the soul of wit. And if you just keep your mouth,
man, if I could just listen to what you just said, Chaz, I'd be a better man. Love it. Well, what's last on the list of posts?
Finally, try your cases, y'all. Yeah. I mean, if you don't use it, you lose it.
Yes.
It's easy to get bogged down in, having too much to do, and, just being so busy that you don't have time to try cases. But you got to try cases, especially if you're not getting any offers that are worth a darn. Try your cases. That's all I can say. I mean, go in there. No one's going to respect you if all you do is walk in and plead guilty every time. No DA, no judge. Now, I'm not telling you to go in there and try some case that blatantly needs to be pled, because that makes you look worse. But you got to go in there and you got to try cases, and you got to do a good job, and you got to be prepared when you're in there trying the case. But don't get caught up in the rat race. Remember that you're a trial lawyer. That's why you're listening to this podcast. You need to try your cases, because if you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah, I love that. I think, to me, that's probably going to be the most important tip that we talk about today, is trying cases. And I think it's because there's so much, fear and anxiety about getting into a courtroom and trying a case. I mean, it just is, there's no easy way to kind of overcome that unknown without just a ton of practice and doing it. And, I still get nervous before I try cases. I'm still worried if I've got the right preparation, the right approach to a case. I heard an attorney at a CLE a long time back down in Atlanta. I can't remember who it was that said this, that said, you're not a real DWI lawyer until you've lost 10 in a row. And I was like, that's a good, mentality, because I think it's, our mindset so often is, if I don't have a slam dunk case, then I shouldn't take it to trial, when in reality, on most DWI cases, there's very little to lose. I mean, that's not true. Again, we'll leave the exceptions for what they are, but on, your run of the mill level 4, level 5, the offer outcome for trying a case and versus trying a case and losing is going to be very minimal. So, why not get the experience and the practice of trying that? And there's been so many times I've looked my client dead in the face and been like, there is no way we are going to win this case. There is no chance. I've looked at the facts. The video is awful, and I just want to go ahead and proceed with it. Okay, idiot, and then we win, and it's just what the heck, like.
I'll walk in, I'll be like, there's no way I'm going to win this case, and then I win. And on the other hand, I'll walk in and I'm like, there's no way I'm going to lose this case, and I'll lose. Baffled.
Yeah, it is baffling. So, but I mean, it's the Wayne Gretzky quote of, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. I mean, that's got to be the mentality when it comes to trial lawyers. And I think that really the biggest thing to me that this does is, I will be kind of first to say that, when I started practice, I was pleading way too many cases, whether it was out of like kind of nervousness or, kind of almost like going through like a time analysis of, is this even kind of like, worth the fight on this front? Like, it is, we don't have a great issue to push forward. And I really think that kind of being a trial first attorney that change in mindset really created a different like brand, both to the client, to the local bar, to our judges. Like, I mean, you earn the reputation as being a trial lawyer. And again, even if you lose, as long as you are putting up a good fight, you're going to earn respect from, your local bar, from your district attorneys, from the judges. I mean, they're going to see that you are putting in the work on doing that, and you're going to be in a different status than people that are not trying cases. So we elevate ourselves through those trials. So I think that's the most important point. My last point will fail miserably short of Chaz's, because it's a shameless plug. Chaz is our first announced speaker for the Freedom Fighters Summit coming up in October, and it is going to be an incredible two-day event in October in Asheville. Just an incredible lineup of speakers that we're going to be announcing over the coming weeks to help you elevate your practice, help you elevate your branding, your marketing, the way that you think about your culture in your office, hiring, all kinds of different topics related to business, marketing, brand building. It's going to be a great group of attorneys that attend the conference. So I think that one of the things that I see as the most valuable coming out of this is relationships that we're going to build within the conference. But I am super excited about this summit. And Chaz, I really appreciate the fact that you're going to be in the speaker zone. I'm loving it. I cannot wait.
I can't wait either, man. I'm honored and I'm humbled, and I thank you for inviting me. I look forward to it. It's on my schedule. My wife's cool with it. She might even come with
It's judges conference week, so you don't even have to check your calendar from the courtroom end. You do have to check with the wife for sure. You better check with your spouse if you haven't done that.
Yeah, I mean, Jake, you doing this is awesome, and we need more of these. And I thank you for creating such a resource for defense attorneys in North Carolina, with your podcasts, and also with this summit that's coming up. I applaud you. I don't know how you have the time to do all of this and run a business and try cases and have a family and have a break, but I'm impressed by that. I've known you for a long time. I've always considered you a good friend. So thank you for inviting me on there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's a real blessing to be able to do this podcast. I have really learned so much from studying up for the podcast on the ones that I'm doing solo, but certainly on the ones that I have the privilege of having a guest on, like today. I'm just constantly learning, constantly taking mental notes, and a lot of times writing things down after the call to make changes, because I mean, this is how we learn. So through collaboration and elevating one another, that's how we have the best chance of, again, providing better representation to clients across North Carolina. So yeah, if you haven't signed up for it, go check out I'll put the website link in the show notes. Looking forward to the conversation in October.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year. Started off right. If you found the information in this podcast to be valuable, I simply ask that you pay it forward and share this podcast with another member of the legal community. Also, if you would leave us a rating or a review on whatever platform you are listening on, I would greatly appreciate it.